Alisson could have swat it clear, but he kind of pulled his foot out so he didn't boot his own player in and around the Verge duels. Cue a whiff. It's as if he loves Verge so much, these two warriors who've been in so many battles together, David. What he's meant to do is just take everything out, the ball, the defender, the attacker, but it was Verge, precious Verge, buddy Verge. And for a second, he left Martinelli utterly alone with the ball, with the goal in front of him, a gift that he couldn't miss unless his name was Beto.
From the Men in Blazers studios in the crap part of Bedford, for the crap part of West Hollywood, California, it's the Men in Blazers video podcast presented by the GFOPs at Camarena, the most awarded tequila.
Oh, we back, and I can't believe I am saying these words like Tracy Chapman. Davo, how are you doing?
I know, that was incredible last night, her performance at the Grammys. I'm sure we'll talk about it. Doing okay. You know, we've got an atmospheric river, Rog, running through Los Angeles. This is like happens like, I think it's happened to me 3 times since I've lived in Los Angeles. Like 2 storms meet up off the coast and it just puts boatloads of rain into Los Angeles. Well, look, frankly, they don't deal with a spot of rain here very well. Like everybody calls out sick from work. When you dump, maybe double-digit inches on a 48-hour period into this city, I don't know how it really functions. I don't know how they even produced the Grammys last night. So it's a lot of leaks, a lot of power outages, and just everybody stay safe out there. But wow, it's something.
It's been crazy to watch from here, although I do like the romantic way you describe it. 2 storms meeting. It sounds like a beautiful apocalyptic rom-com.
Boy meets girl.
Let's
storm meets storm.
Let's talk about happier Los Angeles things. The happiest Los Angeles things. I don't know if you know this, dear listener. You do if you're a devotee of this show. Tracy Chapman performed in public last night at the Grammys for the first time since 2009. She looks so beautiful. She sounds so beautiful. I do believe that a performance with Luke Combs, who seeded her music quite humbly, beautifully, thoughtfully, her poetry with a whole new generation. I think about it like this, Dave. It's proof that nature is healing. One Friday morning, out of the blue, we get the news Jurgen Klopp announces he's leaving us. The very next Friday, also out of the blue, Variety, I think it was, breaks the news that Tracy Chapman is coming back to fill the disturbance in the force created by Jurgen leaving. If that isn't the ultimate, Davo, nature is healing. I don't know what is.
Yeah, I mean, other than on the Men in Blazers podcast, I think most of the news media is obsessed with Taylor Swift blanking Celine Dion or perhaps some of the other performances in that show. But for us and for you particularly, Rog, Tracy Chapman, who's going to be 60 years old this year, March 30th, 1964 is her birthday. I know that because it's the same day that Jeopardy was born at a studio in New York. They share a birthday. And so Tracy Chapman, what an amazing American.
I genuinely, I think the Tracy Chapman thing, maybe I'm skewed on this. But because this is one of those instances where when something happens, it's normally Everton, like lucking a win over Liverpool at Anfield or something, or avoiding relegation or whatever by the last kick of the ball. Last night was one of those instances where I hear from like everybody in the world, like even people I've not seen in like 15, 20 years, reach out and just be like, hey, I was thinking about you, which is really beautiful. It's quite humbling. It's quite an honor to be candid, to be just tinily woven into people's experience of just an incredible, now cross-generational performer. But I've talked about Tracy Chapman on this network since the very beginning of MIB. And to me, she is the Lionel Messi of tunes. But this is the first time since I've broadcasted football that she's played live on stage.
Wow.
And I've said often, David, there's 3 guests on this show that remain on my bucket list to come on and be interviewed. And they are Philip Larkin, the great Primo Levi, whose books are just above my head, his entire collection, and Tracy Chapman. And 2 of those are dead.
Well, now you can actually say that Tracy Chapman is turning you down because I know. But now she's got the Grammys out of the way. She did a Fullwell 73 show those English guys who produced that show. So maybe she'll come and do
It
yours.
was such a thrill to see her back in the public eye. I've got to be candid, um, because you're watching her, first of all, truly thrilled by the reception. That initial reception. I wonder what that felt like to her. She's incredibly introverted and very shy, but I think it was a beautiful moment for her. And then knowing that millions of people watching her in that second were being connected, yes, to her music with Luke Combs, but to profoundly powerful memories of their own when they first heard that song. Some memories probably unlocked for the first time in a long time.
Yeah,
No doubt many people transported back to some very raw places when
yeah,
maybe that song saved them. Um, and that is beautiful. I love Fast Car. Because, well, I do listen to it. We talked about this on the show a lot. Whenever Everton lose, which is quite a lot, right, David?
yeah. It's well, although it happens a lot to Chelsea too now. So carry on.
But I do so for a reason. Like almost as a reminder. You know that feeling when your team loses in that final second. You feel in agony. But sporting pain, I do believe, are the best kind of pain because compared to real life pain, sporting pain is nothing. And listening to Fast Car in that moment, what feels like agony, um, you realize that no matter how much you are hurting in that minute, just grrr, DCL or whatever, there are those in the world, Tracy in this song, who is suffering at levels that you can't even fathom. And it always gives me pause. And in fact, in my pain, makes me realize how bloody lucky I really am. And so this song, seeing it sensationally this morning, back to number one, her version on iTunes, I think 36 years after its release, makes me so unbelievably happy just about all the joy and goodness that has been released back into the world again. Because God only
Yeah,
knows we need it, David.
absolutely. Um, Tracy Chapman, Joni Mitchell, and Burner Boy all on the same show, all speaking to their own fans through their music in a different way. I just got to say one thing, Roger. If you watched the whole Grammys last night, you might not be Philip Larkin and Primo might not be out of sight if you saw what Stevie Wonder did with Tony Bennett. He brought Tony Bennett back to life. Deep, you may be able to work on something there. Get producer J Dubs on it.
So, Primo, how did you come to support West Ham United? That's a funny story,
Yeah,
Roger.
yeah, it
Uh,
could work. It
oh.
could work. Okay, enough Grammys talk. Before we get to the football, a quick word about everything coming up at Men in Blazers World Headquarters this week. Tomorrow, Rog, you will drop a pod with none other than US soccer human highlight reel Serginho Dest. It's part of our PSV USA series, in which we've partnered with that proud Dutch club, which currently sits atop the Eredivisie, to create content. And I understand this pod does not disappoint.
David, it is rather, I'd say, file this one under S for surreal listen.
Oh,
Serginho and I talk about everything from his post game highlight reel that he posts repetitively on his Instagram, win or lose. And we talked about the big one, who's a better actor, Vin Diesel or Jason Statham? Um,
whoa.
I mean, I think the question was, is Vin Diesel the greatest actor in performing today or the greatest actor ever? That's what triggered that conversation.
Okay.
It's just must listen fair and tell the people how they can find it.
Yeah, exclusively, Rog. That podcast will appear on our early kickoff pod feed. Again, not on this pod feed, on our early kickoff feed, which we're putting so much content there these days, including early kickoff every Monday through Friday. And Vamos is now also on that feed, remember, every single Thursday. So just search Men in Blazers Early Kickoff, hit subscribe, and have a listen. Now, Rogelio, can you kick us off with a toast?
Oh, David, this is a special moment. I will give you a toast, but before we dive in, I do just want to take a quick minute and raise my third first of the week to the GFOPs at Michelob Ultra, a brand that are doing so bloody much for the game we love in the nation we adore. You may have seen their commercial with Lionel Messi having a kick around on South Beach, which will be playing around halftime at a very big NFL game, maybe next weekend. And that really kicks off a new era for this brand in the United States as the dominant beer of football. It's the official beer of US men's and women's national teams, the Mexican Football Federation, Copa America. and also the Men in Blazers Media Network. We are honoured to be part of it, and we are bloody grateful to be riding with joy alongside of you. And in that spirit, I want to raise my third first Michelob Ultra of the day, best Mickey since Arteta, too big Marouane Fellaini, the Belgian man o' war, who this weekend announced his retirement from football at the age of 36. Oh, Fellaini recently finished a 4-year stint at Chinese side Shandong Taishan. But Premier League fans remember him from that magnificent 6 years he spent at Everton Football Club before joining Manchester United, almost as the ultimate talisman of the David Moyes era in 2013. And when the news of his retirement crackled out this weekend, my eldest son Samson texted me to say, "This is the moment. It feels like my childhood is really over." We loved Marouane Fellaini. We really did. God, I adored that man. Watching him run around Goodison Park like an angry dandelion. And then there we became a joke at Manchester United, ultimately a symbol of Mourinho's repressive regime. But in my mind, I remember him as an unplayable force in blue, wheeling away in the box, leaving opposing defenders in puddles at his feet, rising up like a Walloon griffin to smite the ball home with his head, charged towards the adoring Gladys Street end. Oh, with his curls bouncing and his signature mix of potent joy, combined with that unmaskable and genuine surprise that he'd actually done something good, flinging both arms towards the fans with two fingers outstretched in his herky-jerky snatch movement that I never truly understood. Yet every time he did it, I expected lightning to crackle out of his fingertips and thunder to resound across the land. Farewell, Marouane, you beautiful human being, my prince.
He had that rare combination, which is he had an extreme look, an extreme haircut, but also phenomenal quality phenomenal personality. I would say quality. It was not all that consistent, but capable of playing very, very good football.
Top 10 Chester of the ball all time.
Yeah, but it's partly because his chest is concave, so it made it easier to sort of control the ball within it.
It was also about 4 feet higher than other chests that were available on the field at any one time.
Yeah. I must say, I found myself late last night watching the PBA US Open, the Professional Bowling Association US Open. Amazing. There's a bowler named Kyle Troop, Rog. You should just take a look at Kyle Troop. He's a white boy with a sort of a big sort of haircut similar to yours. If you use a blow dryer on it when you were 20 years old, a big
20-year-old
head
Rog,
of hair.
as opposed to now, where I have the Anthony Taylor.
Very, very different. Very, very different. And Carl Troop has a Marouane Fellaini look, but he has a personality to match along with the look. He doesn't chest the bowling ball as well as Marouane Fellaini chests the soccer ball. But Carl Troop, I was thinking about Marouane Fellaini a lot last night watching Carl Troop win the US Open.
God,
amazing.
I think Marouane, possibly top 5 Everton player for me of all time.
Wow. Interesting. Okay. So to the football, Arsenal 3, Liverpool 1. Arsenal came out like a kid who's overzealous, possibly drunk dad has just told them the secret to fighting is landing the first punch. And after some early pressure, it paid off when in the 14th minute, after some sublime build-up play, Bukayo Saka turned home a Kai Havertz rebound to make it 1-0. But despite Arsenal continuing to turn the screw for the remainder of the half, Liverpool pulled level just before the half, thanks to some woeful Arsenal defending. But Mickey Arteta rallied the troops at halftime, and Arsenal responded in the 67th minute after some confusion with Big Veg. Alisson was caught with his Becker showing, allowing Martinelli to send one into an empty net. And after Konate was sent off, substitute Leandro Trossard, Belgian Pete Davidson, added a third that saw Mikel Arteta go all chariots of fire down the sideline. Arsenal go second, just 2 points behind Liverpool. What a game.
When you say Mickey Arteta now, I think he's just like Mickey Ultra Arteta. But God, this game between first and third, league leading Liverpool, 5 points back Arsenal at the time, who both felt in a strange way as if they were chasing the second place team, Manchester City, who just lurked like a footballing Anton Chigger with practice terror. Arsenal came into this one just 3 wins in the last 7 league games. Liverpool, they had that one stain, that Spurs stain on their season. I think it was a 1 loss in the last 33, and it was the Reds in lilac. They opened strongly. Jota charging through the gut, an opening flourish. Gakpo breaking through, flapping wide too. But Arsenal, they made a searing opening statement when Martinelli just tore down the left with speed and confidence, skinning Canate, speed killing speed. The ball arrowed across, and Saka couldn't get his cute little bonce on it as he flung himself in. And those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it, because within 3 minutes, Ødegaard fed Havertz with a stunning signature first-time clip release ball. Oh, Havertz charged in on Alisson. I'd like to be kind and say Kai missed on purpose, electing to drive the ball off Alisson's chest for Saka like a little alley-oop off the backboard. Oh, his little happy feet, Mumble the Penguin, driving home over Canate, cute delirium, Arteta exploding on the sideline. Never be normal, Mikel. It was magnificent to witness.
Yeah, it was a beautiful goal. Started in their own half, the ball moving in all different angles, back towards their own goalkeeper, across the pitch in every direction. A series of inverted triangles. Rog, let's just be kind to Kai. That was a great run. This is actually maybe the best game I've seen him play for Arsenal overall. It was a great run. Yes, he hit it straight at Alisson. Bukayo Saka just waiting there. Didn't squander the opportunities. He did the header a few minutes before, and 1-0. And what a good game of football we had going on.
God, it really is just fantastic watching him labour in the false Kai position, I think it is tactically. But Liverpool's backline, that was a motif for the day, all over the show. However, they've been behind so many times. I think a league-leading 19 points grasped from losing positions. That's what we expected to see. So the response was... It was utterly tepid. They just seemed slower to react to each second ball. Arsenal's intensity persevered. Liverpool, one touch too many every time. Arsenal retreated, ever coiled to five forward on the break. Liverpool started to flinch and the game just became scruff and scrap. Martinelli cooking Trent at will. It's amazing, actually, watching or listening to Liverpool fans who are already demanding that Conor Bradley, who was absent due to the tragic news of his father's passing. By the way, that an agony, a week in which he scored his first Liverpool goal. Life, like football, filled with just unpredictability and just ricocheting emotions. We wish the Bradley family so well in their time of darkness, but it was amazing to see Liverpool fans demanding Conor Bradley go right back into Trent's position when he returns. But still, that memory of Arsenal's December dip, where they'd lost 3 times despite having higher XG than all of their opponents, just lingered, especially when, cusp of halftime, Luis Diaz charged in on goal. Saliba, favourite to the ball, tried to do that, bodying the opponent, boxing out the free throw, if you will, to break up the attacker's momentum, have his goalkeeper just come out and claim the ball. Diaz, though, player with cunning and guile, ran around the side, poked the ball through, caused chaos. It was like watching the pin be pulled out of a grenade. And Raya suddenly left stranded, groping on the floor like a Hasselhoff. Oh, chasing after a cheeseburger, ball loose. Gabriel panicked, swatted like some kind of Sao Paulo Mutombo, fight or flight, and he chose the latter, Davo. Just poked the ball into his own net. It was like comedy. It was like, hey, Siri, play the Tortured Poets department.
Yeah, I felt bad for Gabriel at that point. I mean, really, Saliba was the one who didn't deal with the clearance and didn't deal with the ball, but it was a comedy goal, and conceded in Judge Ivor Bennett time. Rog, it had to change Mickey Arteta's speech at halftime. You know, he had a completely different speech ready to go, and then he had to change his speech to go there. And Liverpool, who frankly, an odd performance from them in the first half, they looked lackadaisical. They looked like they didn't really care. They'd lost all that intensity post Klopp announcement that they'd shown against Chelsea in midweek and in every other game they've played. And but somehow they find themselves 1-1 tied in the game.
It was inexplicable. It's like the luck of the last dance. I mean, Liverpool gifted 1 goal after a tepid half a play in which they mustered exactly 0 shots on target. It must have been like a smack to the gob for Arsenal. They should have been 2-0 up. Instead, due to this moment of classic self-defenestration, if you will, halftime pegged at 1, proved that if you switch off for even a second in the Premier League, Liverpool will make you pay. And second half, Liverpool came out, revved up. Curtis Jones pushed up a little higher. And for a moment, they just roared at the Arsenal backline, breaking through the midfield box with ease. But Arsenal did steady themselves. It's fascinating watching Rice and Jorginho, another of your former lovers, Davo, really dominate that midfield battle with Kai Havertz doing a lot of the dirty work, tracking back to smother McAllister at times too. Fascinating to hear Rice after the game talk about how calming it is to play alongside Jorginho. I think he called him a soothing presence, which I just love, as if he's like balm. But you knew that both teams had to win so incredibly badly. 58th minute, Nunez, Elliott, and Robertson were about to emerge, aka chaos. But the only chaos that set in was in their own backline. A goal out of nowhere. Gabriel lumped an aimless ball forward. This time it was Van Dijk and Alisson charging together to clear the danger drill thing they routinely do like 5 or 6 times a game. Slight push from Martinelli into Verge's precious, gorgeous back, which honestly would be expected in that moment. But it seemed to throw Verge off at a crucial juncture. Alisson, who was at second line of defence, probably should have. I'd love to hear what you think, Dave. Swat it clear, but he kind of pulled his foot out so he didn't boot his own player in and around the Verge duels. Cue a whiff. It's as if he loves Verge so much, these two warriors who've been in so many battles together, David. What he's meant to do is just take everything out, the ball, the defender, the attacker. But it was Verge, precious Verge, buddy Verge. And for a second, he left Martinelli score the winner against Manchester City, utterly alone with the ball, with a goal in front of him, a gift that he couldn't miss unless his name was Beto. Kind of slapstick goal. The looked at the one that Arsenal had conceded and upped it, hold my beer style, David.
I was watching two of your former players, Leon Osman and Don Hutchison, on TV last night, and they were talking. They made an interesting point that really, in that situation, the last thing a central defender wants is for their goalkeeper to come to that ball as well, because either they deal with it or the goalkeeper deals with it. And really, Alisson should have probably stayed in his net at that point and it's Virgil van Dijk. It's not like it's some scrub coming in. Let Virgil van Dijk go and deal with that situation, or not deal with that situation and stay in goal. They didn't really need two of them at that point, messing it all up, which I wouldn't have thought of normally. I would have just said, oh my God, like Virgil, leave it for the keeper and Alisson's got to go and deal with it. But maybe it's just like...
But it was astonishing, man. We were all tuned to see a top of the table Premier League battle, and it just devolved into an old school crap defensive dance off. GFOP at Boy Sevens noted not just any two defenders, but two of the best in the league currently. It's almost as if clearance is a lost art.
Yeah, well, everybody wants to play it. Everybody wants to play the ball. Everybody wants to body the ball. Everybody wants to do the advanced stuff, not the obvious stuff. And of course, that's what fans also would like, because when they concede a corner kick, Roger, when they concede a throw and a goal comes from that, they're like, why couldn't they just play the ball? Why did they have to go and give something away? But you're right, in a game of this quality, for two of the three goals to be so comical and so laughable, it was bizarre.
I think Roy Keane called it like pub team defending both of those goals. And I was just like, man, let's accentuate the positive. Arsenal fans deserve happiness too. And in terms of their happiness, what was truly an immense aspect of the game was what followed. Because again, the narrative of Liverpool, the mentality monsters scoring late, resilient footballers, it didn't really rear its head at all. Thiago came on for the first time since April 2023. It's great to see him back, but his ability to influence the game muted, mostly because Konate got a second yellow card for levelling Havertz. So the game kind of descended into a spiky effervescence. And I respect in that kind of like knife fight mentality that Arsenal didn't lose their focus, summoned the steel to put the game away. Trossard hit Harvey Elliott with the old Walloon Wazzle Dazzle. He bared down on goal. Big Verge swooped in to intercept, but only succeeded in nudging it right through Alisson's quite enormously gaping 5-hole goal. Really an empty echo of the one that Gabriel Jesus scored on Matty Turner. Even the greats can be humiliated by Arsenal attackers flying down the wing at acute angles. Q, Warby Parker-Selly, and Arteta just charging down the touchline like a berserker, which I will admit the hypocrisy. When Jose Mourinho does it, it annoys the hell out of me. There's something about the way Arteta does it. It just seems like he's just doing it because he's not doing it like out of arrogance and wanting to steal headlines. He's just doing it because he's just gloriously never not normal, if you know what I mean, David. I love it.
He's manic. I guarantee that Jurgen Klopp viewed it around the same way that he views it when Jose Mourinho does it. I don't think there was a lot of difference. There was significant annoyance on his face at the time.
I find it so cute, though. You know what I mean? It's just out of weirdness that he does it, and I'm fantastic. Stay weird, Mikel. Stay weird, baby.
Yeah, it was bizarre. Antonio Conte was pretty good at doing it as well. He was wonderful at that move. It was excellent.
I'm trying to think of an
Yeah,
Everton
bizarre
manager that's
thing.
ever done that. Then I'm like, have we ever had a cause to do that? Not really.
No,
You don't really run down the way down the flank in manic celebration when you've just got a garbage time goal in a 4-1 self
oh,
destruction.
you've had some good Duncan Ferguson celebrations, Rog, or maybe two of them. There were two of those. Uh, this apparently was the highest XG against Liverpool in the Klopp era in the Premier League, which is remarkable. Remarkable. I mean, situationally, contextually, with what's going on, I think Liverpool fans are complaining about the red card, the freakness of the goals, thinking about that foul, that assault on Verge that resulted in that goal. But this was a strange Liverpool performance in what was, I should have set up more context at the top. This was a huge game in the context of these top three teams in the Premier League going for it. This was a strange performance and an un-Liverpool like performance in this
And
game.
I credit just Arsenal and their intensity, their focus, because they finished surging just in communion with their fans who
Yeah.
were savouring what was more than the 3 points. It was, I mean, if we're being honest, it was a real, it was an agony for Liverpool. We'll discuss that in a minute. A massive win for Arsenal, probably an even bigger win for Manchester City. But this, just the third win for Arsenal against Liverpool in the last 24 games, just a surging boost of self confidence for them, almost proving themselves to themselves in this moment, proof that they don't implode when adversity struck in the first half, self inflicted adversity, that they can rise up with a taste of their own blood in their mouth and punch their opponent right back in the face, especially after the austerity budget at the January transfer window, which meant no new striking goal machine incoming, to score three against Liverpool. This Liverpool, to go just 2 points back now, to react to that deflating concession on the stroke of half time, to repel Liverpool, Davo. Can you see them now? Do you see them now? Is this just a moment? Like, I think GFOP at Cowboy Kaju tweeted us to say, all this means is you now get to split the "We beat Liverpool" trophy with Tottenham Hotspur. But do you see them? This is a statement that Arsenal Football Club are a true three-way title contender.
Look, had they lost this game, Rog, they would have been behind Aston Villa in, fourth place in the Premier League. They would have been 8 points behind Liverpool. They would have been 5 points behind Man City, with who would have two games in hand. I mean, this was a loss in this game would have been title ending. I would probably title ending question mark. It would have been close to over. So in the context of that, this was a huge win, and yes, it was. And the reason I do give Kai Havertz some credit in this game, and it pains me, one of my former lovers, Rog, is that it was some of the dark arts. He was the one that got the two cards on Kanate. He was the one who, made the run, made the hard tackles, did a lot of that kind of stuff. And it was the steal of this performance and the continuing just pure class of Declan Rice in that midfield that really impressed me. It was a phenomenal performance.
In terms of Liverpool, suddenly losing for the second time in North London, first defeat without Mo Salah in the team since he arrived in 2017, um, puts all eyes on March 9th, that Manchester City game. Burns so staggeringly bright. If City beat Brentford this afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern time, and then their game in hand in April against Luton, they will be top. This was really the worst performance of the season in a massive game. That's what makes it deflating. But
Yeah.
Klopp knows, and Liverpool fans must know, they will rebound. Burnley next, then Brentford, Forest, Luton, Chelsea. Wouldn't want to be any of those teams. Endo
No.
coming back from the Asian Cup. Thiago available again. Soboslai and Salah to return from injury. Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andy Robertson getting back to full fitness. Still very much a title that's up for grabs, right, Dave? Jurgen Klopp said that. For me, the right thing post-defeat. Instead, we have the chance to create our own destiny.
Yeah, look, and as a fan, this three-team title race, I'm delighted that Arsenal won just from that point of view. That to watch these three teams play this level of football against each other and against the other teams in the league coming in at the end of this season, it's a title race for the ages. I'm just sit back and enjoy, forget the tribalism and just enjoy the football. It's going to be amazing to watch.
There was a beautiful moment that I just want to close with at the final whistle. Martin Ødegaard walked up to Arsenal's beloved team photographer, Stuart MacFarlane, legend at the club. I think he started in 1991. A gent so popular, anyone who watched All or Nothing will remember the scene where Mikel Arteta asked the photographer to give a team talk ahead of the game. And after this match, Ødegaard grabbed Stuart's nick on, forced the photographer to pose for a photograph of the victorious fans whirling out behind him, almost to make a memory of this massive Gunners win for Stuart MacFarlane. And I was blown away by this gesture, just the kindness, the thought, the empathy from a captain who's used to being in front of the lens, giving a staffer the spotlight in that moment. And I know Jamie Carragher on Sky Sports didn't like it. He said, yeah, you've won. Go, just get back into the locker room. A lot of football to play. But I've got to say, as someone that has sat through my fair share of Jurgen Klopp post-match fist pumps in my life, and I understand what that is. I do understand it. It's the building of club culture, a winning club culture. This is the same to me, and I admire it greatly. A club culture built from the top down. And I just say that's your captain, Arsenal fans, and I thought it was beautiful and magnificent.
Yeah, completely and utterly agree, Rog. Okay. Manchester United 3, West Ham 0. United get their third win on the bounce, protecting the punch bowl from what David Moyes loves to do so much into it. First goal came in the 23rd minute when Danish United Rasmus Winter Højlund gave a little Copenhagen shimmy before smashing home for his fourth goal in 4 league games. Alejandro Garnacho then added goals number 2 and number 3. All with that haircut, as United capped their biggest home league win of the season. They leapfrogged the Irons into 6th place. 11 goals in 3 games last week, Rog. A little bit of a bounce in United fans' steps these days.
Yeah, goes to Christmas past. David Moyes returns to Old Trafford on a serious day, marking the 66th anniversary of the Munich air disaster, that tragedy in which 23 people lost their lives, including 8 Manchester United players and 3 team officials. The darkest of days, which is so embedded so deeply in the club's DNA. That was before the game, but as soon as the whistle blew, actually West Ham appear to get down to work the quickest. The West Ham travelling faithful. They sang loudly and proudly, champions of Europe. We know what we are. God bless the Europa Conference League. Just top for Bants. But their team flailed every time United's goal beckoned. Did indeed suddenly look very Europa Conference League. And not in a good way. In the 23rd minute, Casemiro prodded the ball forward. It came to Højlund, who took possession with his back to goal on the edge of the area. And I've got to say, earlier in the season, amidst all of that spectacular Manchester United dysfunction, during that 14-game barren spell without a Højlund goal, there's no doubt he would have just immediately laid it off to have deferred. But no longer. The gent just span round. And I don't know, Davo, how you say hips don't lie in Danish. I believe, and if you're listening to this in Denmark, please enlighten me, meninblazers@gmail.com. I believe it's something like Hofte Livaliki. He just crossed over Naya Fager in the blink of an eye and then rifled the ball the other way past the stunned Areola, Zip and Menace on his 21st birthday, no less. They've opted to Joe put out the stat. Only the second player to score on his actual 21st birthday in the Premier League. The other one was Noel Whelan in December 1995. Happy birthday, Rasmus. Now you're a man. From meme lord to real Lord Davo, it's been magnificent to witness his tenacity.
Yeah, look, and scored with his weaker foot, with the right foot. Rogers didn't look like a weak foot finish. It was just the move to get free was superb, and looks like the player that they were so excited to get all of a sudden. And Man United playing with this energy, with this excitement. I mean, look, 2 games ago they were 1 point ahead of Chelsea. Now they're sitting there, sort of on the, looking like they could find a European place just on their, just on the quality of their own finish. Could be 5 teams going to the Champions League this season from the Premier League. And wow, Ten Hag got a performance out of them at the right time.
Yeah, it was magnificent to watch Højlund. Slightly less magnificent, we do need to note, the Selly. We've grown used to this rather fragile young Dane marking every bloody goal. almost as a moment of redemption after such an agonising start to his career at Old Trafford. The way he kept pointing long after he'd scored, like maybe you do it for your first goal, but not your second but still pointing to his name, pointing to the badge, banging his chest, telling the fans, here, here, here. We love that. We got that. We got that message. But now, Davo, 4 goals in 4 games. It means his confidence is now surging. And here, he unfurled a new Sally that he's clearly been workshopping on his own in training. How would you describe it?
It was improvised, I would say, would be the kindest thing I could say about it.
You know what? He said he actually has thought about it since Christmas. He got a guitar, which he's not yet played. But if you didn't see it, listeners, he lifted up one leg, kind of bunny hop repeatedly while strumming the other leg as if it was a guitar. At the FLM, Dan MUFC tweeted us, imagine if Jack Grealish did this. His calves would explode, the shorts, which honestly would be magnificent to witness. United did not play well, but they had the lead. Against West Ham, who'd been front foot but so errant in front of goal. Second half began with Emerson slapping high and wide when Maguire coughed up the ball, and within a minute, that miss made to count. United went up the other end. Ball worked out to Garnacho, who, off a wicked deflection, again off the unlucky Arguer, found the back of the net. And God bless Garnacho. Gent is so wondrously shameless, Davo. He proceeded to do the Kudus signature celebration. I sit on the advertising hoardings and just think about my own majesty and bask in my own aura. Rasmus Cobby joined in a threesome which has just sent United hearts absolutely skipping. This suddenly is our future.
Future.
Amazing, man. I mean, probably the way they coordinated the Saturday is probably the most cohesive moment of team play they've unfurled all season. The Selly, not the goal, but was not Pete Garnacho, Davo? Deflected goal, doing the Selly anyway. That kind of sums up that gent to a T. He's that guy.
I mean, it's a metaphysical comment on life, right? It's the fact that uh, they're both contributing to their own lives, they're both participating in their own lives, and also watching themselves do it at the same time. It's that sort of observer effect. It's remarkable.
Wales within Wales, United 2 up and coasting. Same score at Newport last weekend in the FA Cup. I'm old enough to remember that game when the scoreline quickly became 2-2 against Wolves midweek. Twice they'd let a 2-goal advantage slip. So maybe West Ham were like, we've got United exactly where we wanted them. And the honest truth is, United were open. The midfield was not in control of this game against a more ruthless team. They could have been exposed, but not on this day. Garnacho finished off a fine classic Manchester United counter, make it 3-0 a noise at Old Trafford. Honestly, not sound. I wasn't there, but speaking to family members who were, it has not sounded like that in a while. A sense of joy, a sense of belief. Every time their team attacked, a backline who repelled all comers despite the XG. Manchester United 0.83 expected goals beat West Ham, who had expected goals of 1.84, a stat which probably will just add to the pain for David Moyes. Still never won a league game as a visitor at Old Trafford, 17 games and counting. But this was a day of joy for United fans. 3 consecutive wins, goal for birthday boy Rasmus Højlund, double for Garnacho, 1 black eye, the serious injury to Alessandro Martinez, which will knock him out until March. But 4 wins and a draw in the calendar year 2024, undefeated in this young yearlet, up to 6 in the table. Aston Villa away next week, Davo. Probably more of a litmus test of the true progress.
Yeah, absolutely. But wow, Ten Hag can get results when he needs them. I've never seen anybody do it like him as a manager. Just when you
Jurgen
think it's all
Klinsmann.
getting over.
Jurgen
Yeah,
Klinsmann in the Asian Cup comes to mind.
yeah. Yeah, I was thinking Premier League, but yeah, but you're right. You're right. But this was just remarkable. Okay, on the opposite side of remarkable, Chelsea 2, Wolves 4. Wolves marched into Stamford Bridge and kicked Chelsea right in the Cunhas. They actually exploded a Cunha bomb right in their underpants, Rog, after a Cole Palmer opener had the home side up 1-0 early. Mateus Cunha went full Draymond Green to Chelsea's Steven Adams, scoring a first half and 2 second half goals to complete the hat-trick. Throw in an Axel Disasi own goal in there for good measure, a few deflections, and Wolves were up 4-1 before Thiago Silva grabbed a meaningless one back near the final whistle. An absolute non-celebration from him afterwards. He was so pissed off. Life is pain, and pain is life, Roger. This is why you don't want to get too wrapped up in your own football team.
God, fresh off a statement thrashing against Liverpool midweek. How would Chelsea respond? That's what we went into. And unfortunately, it was by being flayed at home in front of their fume-filled fans. A game which began, I should say, with misdirection now. Cole Palmer opening the scoring after an incredible Caicedo pass, beautifully weighted, became the youngest Chelsea player to score 10 Premier League goals all time. But where there's Chelsea happiness this season, disappointment must lurk. Your club, Davo, they're nothing else this season, are strangely akin. I think about Chelsea like the drama mask, the Melopamine and Talia, one of tragedy, one of comedy, fused together. Chelsea ahead for just 127 seconds before it was Caicedo who coughed the ball up lamely in midfield. Wolves charged through the gut, and Cunha slapped home off a heavy deflection, which made it almost more embarrassing. Caicedo took the blame for the second goal. Nouri not tracked back. He clipped the ball in off own goal scorer Disasi. And as Rebecca Lowe said at halftime, Stamford Bridge first quietened, then silenced, and then the boos rang out at halftime, David. I was just like, oh my God, Davo's poor child, George, who still believes naive, wonderful thoughts. My heart ached for him and for you.
Yeah, no, thank God he's got his streetwear, which he enjoys. Yeah, look, it was another signature Chelsea performance in that first half. Overwhelming possession. They got a lead. Some moments of scintillating play. A Caicedo pass. You said I think you said an exquisitely weighted Caicedo pass, something which we haven't heard this season. Followed by a combination of terrible midfield play, giving up the ball, being incredibly loose to the counter. A Chelsea, team whose tradition is born on this spine that operates from the middle down the pitch. This is a Chelsea team with zero spine. They cannot defend a counter anywhere up and down the pitch. They give the ball away all the time and then sort of run back lackadaisically towards it. And yes, two deflections on these goals. One of them clearly an own goal because it was missing. But it's so many Wolves players at speed moving into the box, attacking Chelsea so hard, so fast, so aggressively. These sort of things are going to happen to you. And on your heels against another mid-table team, this is not the Chelsea of yore, Rog. It's a club in crisis,
Get
genuine
worse
crisis.
for Chelsea. Pedro Neto came back to touch Chilwell, and old man Thiago Silva, Christopher Nkunku, anonymous. Cunha finished off a buccaneering move with a flourish. He'd later complete his hat-trick from the penalty spot. I think only the fourth visiting player to do so in the Premier League era, just the second Wolves player to grab any kind of Premier League hat-trick. Gent ended with a 9.8 rating on FOTMob. Hat-trick, penalty earned, huge ball winner, aka a bit of about 200 million incoming over the summer, according to Chelsea amortization logic. An enormous away win for Wolves. Gary O'Neill, we do need to raise our cap for Wolves manager. They were seen as surefire relegation fodder before the season began, and I think he arrived 5 days before the first game. They're now in the top half. It's an immense achievement. I think my moment of the game, before we analyse Chelsea, Davo, was when Wolves fans started singing mid-game. And I apologise if you're listening to this with kids for my foul language, but I truly need to capture this one in its essence, so you get the brilliance of this moment. Wolves fans started a chant at Stamford Bridge: "You're fucking shit! You're fucking shit!" No, they wouldn't. How would they have sang that? There, my Wolves accent, my Birmingham accent's not so good.
You're fucking. You just got to act like you got a cold, Rog, to do all the Midlands. It's like you're fucking shit. You're fucking shit. You're fucking shit. You're fucking shit.
To which Chelsea fans immediately responded, "We're fucking shit." Now I'm doing a northern accent. Why am I doing that? Chelsea fans responded,
"We're fucking shit. We're fucking shit." But it was. But see, the normal response, because the normal response would always be "Champions of Europe." You'll never sing that. That would always be the response. Always. At this point, They said we can't sing that anymore. Honestly, we just can't sing
We're
Champions of
fucking
Europe to
shit.
that good
We're
shit.
fucking. I mean, it was incredible, David. In our world of football, it is so
I've never
rare
been
that
I've never
opposing
been
fans
prouder of
agree
my
on
club.
anything.
I've never been prouder of my
Opposing
club.
fans never agree about anything. And that they did in that second, just spontaneously, was truly, truly. Felt for a second that there was harmony and possibility. I say that before we get to Chelsea, David. For me, I mean, your analysis will be the lead here, but a lack of leadership, a lack of responsibility. Just you I spoke to someone at Chelsea before the season began, and they were talking um, about this was the greatest collection of young raw talent that had ever been assembled, as if it was like some wines that had been purchased that just needed to be put down, and value would immediately accrue on a massive scale. But this is an experiment that has never been taken on in football before. It is utterly unprecedented. Just the age profile. You look at the great young teams of yore, like Ajax, 1995 is myth, is just one soaked in myth. Manchester United, 1996. They still had in the squad just a number of older veterans who led, who created structure, but without them. And this Chelsea side is almost devoid of leadership. A veteran leadership. You kind of got Thiago Silva, who just seems seething constantly. Raz, who's not confident enough in his own ability to really do anything apart from unleash an incredibly beautiful collection of Clark's Wallabies. But I mean, David, the progress. You talk about a project. It feels like it's not a project. It's just so amorphous, so formless. The English tabloids are already starting to crackle with talk of Pochettino days being very numbered. The Carabao final is probably the toupee with which he's clinging on. Apologise to fans at the final whistle. Where are you, Davo, on that?
I mean, I'm looking at the message I wrote to my mate, British comedian Johnny Vaughan last night, who said, "Please tell me what's going on. Please explain this to me." And my first line: "It's a horribly and naively run club." That is it stinks for me, Rog. It stinks from the top, and that doesn't mean that the manager isn't culpable. That doesn't mean that the players aren't culpable. But this was naive. How many times have we just said there is not a direct route from promising young player to great professional? Is just not a straight line. However good your 14-year-olds or your 16-year-olds or your 18-year-olds are, when you're playing against seasoned professionals in one of the toughest leagues in the world, it just doesn't often work. As you said, with a bunch of kids with no leadership, it's very, very difficult. The transfer policy, when you think right now, I was thinking if they ran an expansion draft right now in the Premier League, like in the NBA,
Would that be before or after the All-Star game?
Yeah, and you got to get something close to it, and this might be a better idea for Todd Burley to actually promote the idea of an expansion draft. Who would Chelsea actually protect? Right now, it would be Cole Palmer and Thiago Silva, who is 39 years old. He's getting on to 40. There's just no one else you would protect. And so you buy players, either incredibly young players or young players who come from clubs and leagues, whether it's Enzo or whether it's Mudryk, who don't come from like big clubs, or players with very little Premier League experience, like Caicedo. Yes, he did impress at Brighton, but playing at Brighton is a very different thing to playing at a massive Premier League club where you are expected to go out and win and dominate week after week after week. And so they've spent a lot of money on unproven players. Very few transfers like Cole Palmer that has been a successful one, like a good young player who's already shown signs at a big club in this league that he can really go and do it, or a player like Thiago Silva who's played at some of the biggest clubs in Europe and proved himself on so many stages. They've splooged all this money. They've brought back a manager who, I feel for Poch. I really do feel for him. I don't know how long it'll last. This is a club that fires their managers all the time, but I feel for him. I do think he's decent. I think he's great. I don't think he's got a lot of leaders in that squad to go and get them working. I don't think he's got a lot of workhorses in that squad. I think he's just got a bunch of prima donnas who think they're incredible, who have these huge transfer fees around their neck. There is apparently huge friction in the locker room in terms of the difference in wages, because there's massive difference in the wages of these young stars who think they're huge stars because of their the size of their transfer fees, but are on low contracts, and players like Raz who are paid a lot of money and seem to be leaders, but aren't doing well. There's just trouble. They just don't, and their lack of confidence, Rog. This is a 1-0 up against Wolves at home. You just don't see Chelsea teams at any point lose that game. And so to lose that game and to really 4-2 was a very flattering result to them. It should have been 4-1. Just amazing. Amazing that they did it. All credit to Gary O'Neill. I love actually watching Wolves play football. And at the end of this game, I was just enjoying watching Wolves play. I was really just thinking, God, the way they play with so much, like they just let it go. They run. They think we're fast. We're faster than all these other players. We have lots of confidence. These players have none. And the way they just unleashed at them, I, I enjoyed that way more.
Here's the problem for Chelsea fans. I'm just going to say this quickly and we can move on. But the football business expert, Swiss Ramble, um, analysed deep forensic accounting their accounts and projected their losses at the end of this campaign to be around 252 million. But that was on the estimate, which seemed like a sane estimate when he made it, that Chelsea would finish sixth. And in these days of financial fair play, let's just say the sales of this squad that Chelsea are going to have to execute to balance the books. It could. All I'm saying is it could make the club in the next few windows look a little bit like Overstock.com.
Yeah. And sales of players who suddenly have way less value. You know, what would you pay for Enzo today? What would you pay for Caicedo today? Nowhere near the value that they bought them for. They're depreciating assets. Yes, you'll make a bit of money on Cole Palmer, but you're going to be forced into those kind of decisions.
I'll give you, for the two of them, I'll swap them for Beto. Genuinely. Bite your arm off, wouldn't you?
I know. Might take it to get the salaries off the books. Might just take it. Bite your arm off for Beto. Is he worse than Nicholas Jackson? I don't know.
Beto?
Yeah.
Don't do Beto like that, baby.
We'll see. Okay, for more on everything happening at Stamford Bridge, this is good news about Chelsea, Rog. We invite all of you to check out the London is Blue podcast, our latest signing to the Men in Blazers Media Network. Love these humans. These are three gents here in America who've built a podcast, very special podcast, and a podcast network, really, because they also cover Chelsea women and all of the academy teams. So if you love Chelsea, search London is Blue wherever you get pods. You can hear them bemoaning the club that that the Sorting Hat put them into. Okay, Sheffield United 0, Aston Villa 5. Low key, frankly, Roger, the performance of the weekend. A game that, to be fair, wasn't as close as it even sounds. 4 Villa goals in the first 30 minutes made for the soggiest chip butty of all time. Alex Moreno added a fifth just after half-time. Villa vault back into the top four. Sheffield United, meanwhile, are now 10 points adrift from safety and have the worst defence in Premier League history at this stage in the competition, which is saying something. We've seen some bad Premier League defences over the years.
God, with just one win in the last 5 Premier League games, Aston Villa had sagged all the way down to 5th. They'd lost their first home game for nearly a year. We were told they would be vulnerable going into this one against quite feisty Sheffield United, and it did not turn out to be that way. The Blades simply overwhelmed by Villa's quality, team play, their class. They became the first team to score 4 goals in the opening 30 minutes of a Premier League away game since your Chelsea in better days, 2011. 5 different goal scorers for the Villa. To put the class gap into words, Villa were, as they are, essentially Tom Hanks. The Blades, in comparison, were more Chet Hanks. Villa, a bit like the Showtime Lakers, scored every time they ran down the court. Unai Emery, Bass Pat Riley stormed through Sheffield United's backline over and over. The Douglas Luiz pass, if you've not seen it, 2 set 3. Ollie Watkins, if that is the one moment of a record-breaking number of goals scored this weekend, just find that one. My nipples are still tingling at the thought of it. Just impossible to thread through to a teammate better. Ollie Watkins, by the way, first player to reach a double-double in terms of goals and assists in the Premier League this season. Jamaica's Leon Bailey thrashed a poem of an arrow at pace. 7 goals, 6 assists for him. CONCACAF Thunder. Poor Sheffield. One of the single most ramshackle defensive performances I've seen this season. Remember, I support Everton. Graham Potter in the stands watching on like he was at Crystal Palace last week. Dude is now reduced to being the Grim Reaper of impending relegation, particularly conspicuous in the crowd, really because so many of the Sheffield fans left the stadium at half-time. An agony for them, an agony for their team. 10 points off 23 games won. No doubt already planning for next season in the Championship.
Yeah, we uh, we say this about Aston Villa every single week. We don't talk enough about Aston Villa and how great they are, how well coached, how many just beautiful players, how many beautiful moments they've created for their fans, for all football fans this season. Just sitting there, just outside the top three, Rog, and I wouldn't bet against them to finish in the top three. They are just outstanding, an outstanding outfit. Okay, Bournemouth 1, Nottingham Forest 1. A lot of American rooting interest in this one as the Michael B. Jordan owned Cherries, well, partially owned Cherries, host Gio Reyna. That is right, Gio Reyna's Nottingham Forest. It was Bournemouth who took the lead after 5 minutes when back post lurker Justin Kluivert turned one in. But on the stroke of halftime, Callum Hudson-Odoi, another one of my former lovers, Rog. This is a week of former Chelsea players just doing it all over the league. Big Boyd, a pair of Cherry defenders before a wonderful finish into the bottom corner. In the 78th minute, it was the moment America's waiting for as Giovanni Reina came on for Anthony Elanga for his Premier League debut. The game petered out, frankly, and ended 1-1. But fascinating to see Gio start his semester abroad in England here, Rod.
God, that's a lovely way of framing it. It was quite surreal, honestly, watching Gio in his Forest warm-ups before the game. 2 seasons ago, remember, we'd all expected him, the trajectory he was being talked about, his friendship with Haaland, the incredibly creative, just utterly game-changing play he could unfurl. We all thought, like, Manchester City, what's his ceiling? We can't even imagine it. Soaring with the stars. Suddenly he's scrapping it out amidst the chaos of a Premier League relegation fight. But it was still beautiful to hear him come on the USA, USA chanting as he trotted onto the field for Anthony Elanga. I think it was 78th minute. He's arrived on loan for the rest of the season. He's Forest's 42nd signing over the last 4 transfer windows. Blonde Gio, thing of the past. This was serious Gio, back to natural brunette Gio. And all I can say about his play, didn't look overwhelmed, didn't look overawed. Got to say, slightly conflicting emotions for me as an Evertonian watching him come on and try and save Forest from relegation, but not as an American fan. Just say Godspeed, Gio, step up and soar. But it is, Dave, I don't know how you think about this. I mean, he's at Nottingham Forest because his agent, Jorge Mendes Park's clients there. But it's hard to arrive in a relegation battle. Weston McKennie experienced that last season, last January, rolling up at Leeds and just being, slaughtered by the fans amidst the crucible of the relegation dogfight. What do you think about this chance for a fresh start for our star boy who's battled injuries, lack of playing time, the black eye of the World Cup soccer debacle? How do you think about it?
Yeah, I'm sure that while he wants a fresh start, I'm sure he's still processing what happened to him, at Dortmund and also what happened to him with the US men's national team. As a player of remarkable ability and talent, but as I said earlier, that there is not a straight line between young talent and professional success. I'm not saying Gio has had professional great success, incredible moments in the context of being an American player playing in Europe, but to really go and be that next level player, which I think we were all sort of assuming a straight line, it's not a straight line because you've got to deal with the setbacks, you've got to deal with the injuries, you've got to deal with getting dropped, you've got to deal with managers not quite getting the way you play. So I imagine he's got to find a way of
And
processing
leadership
what happened to
conferences.
him. Yes, exactly. So who can deal with leadership conferences and mic'd up managers? But it's this is a tough environment to go into. It's not like he's joining Villa, we just spoke about, who are playing beautiful football. He could slot in without a lot of pressure on him to go and be the man. Nottingham Forest need people to step up and be instantly, game changers and destiny changers for them. And he's not going to have many chances to really go out there and impress. Nottingham Forest do have a boatload of players. It's got a boatload of injured players right now, but it's going to be a difficult task for him.
God, it was symbolic that he made his Forest debut 4 years to the day that he first came on as a 17-year-old and scored his first senior goal for Dortmund. An absolute beauty, just dancing feet and wonder. May that occur again. A footnote to this game, but one we do need to acknowledge quickly after starting the last 7 games with some real let's just say, some roller coaster experiences. Matt Turner, great friend of this show, started on the bench, watched new signing. That's essentially the mediocre gent brought in to replace him, Belgian Matt Sels. Newcastle fans may remember him. He spent 2 seasons at the club. I think appeared just 9 times in that spell, and he conceded within 5 minutes of his Forest debut. Boxed in off a corner. Apparently, the big Belgian attended the Vicario School of Set Piece Defending. Forest have now signed, this is incredible, 6 international goalkeepers in the last 4 transfer windows. One Forest fan texted me to say, we now have 3 dodgy keepers on our squad instead of 1 solid one. I think Forest fans must ache and miss Keylor Navas and what he did last season. Forest, the Forest fan who texted me said, Prob should start all 3 keepers at the same time. I'd just say Godspeed to Matt Turner, gent who's risen so tenaciously at every stage of his career. He's been doubted, written off. He's made massive mistakes before, learned from them, come back, and we just wish him strength in this moment of real adversity.
Absolutely terrible straight red card in the second half of that game. Terrible foul on Callum Hudson-Odoi. Hope he's not too badly injured. Brilliantly handled by the Premier League's first female referee, Rebecca Welsh. Straight red card. Absolutely the right decision. Okay, Newcastle 4, Luton 4. Like Hunter S. Thompson joined the Premier League writing staff. Newcastle took a 1-0 lead. Luton made it 2-1. Newcastle made it 2-2. Luton went 4-2 up. And then the mighty Toons scrape out a draw somehow. Just insanity, Rog. Rob Edwards and Newcastle manager Jason Tindall, presumably too worried about their skincare routines to concern themselves with defence. But when all the concealer had sunk into those beautiful pores, Luton remain in 17th place outside the relegation zone.
Oh, this game was such an odd experience for me. As an Everton fan and Luton's relegation zone tete-a-tete against the Blues, I found myself very temporarily, very fleetingly cheering for Newcastle just
Whoa.
for one day. By the way, there was an Asian Cup game last week, I think it was, where Syria played Iran, and I just did not know who to root for. Like, I found myself. I texted Tommy Vitor to find out geopolitically who should I be cheering for. I was trying to work out who Wally Jumblatt's militia were most likely to be backing, and then I think root against them. This felt like that, a bit like that. But the game itself, just a true barnstormer. Luton are so game. They are so fearless. They are so indomitable. Well, how do I say that word? Indomitable.
Indomitable. Yeah.
Yeah, they are so indomitable. They targeted the cumbersome Dan Burn at left back on repeat. Ross Barkley, full of mischief, mayhem, chip on shoulder form, charged ahead into a 4-2 lead. I think they've scored 31 goals total this season, which is one more than Manchester United. It's for a team that were not meant to score. They weren't meant to get a single point. They believe in themselves in the most delirious way. It is so humanly admirable. 8 goals blasted in 2 games. That is not a relegation trope. Newcastle United at halftime, the fans on social media, a lot of anger directed at how their team had won, I think, just one of their previous 5 league games. Now Luton were just bossing them at home. The tune with Isaac and Callum Wilson injured without a recognised striker, but Howe saved the game. He brought on Tino Livramento, another of your former lovers.
Yeah.
So it's the motif of the day. You're like Prince writing an album, just so many former lovers to use as your muse. Harvey Barnes, finally back from injury, just 212 minutes total for this season, but his direct running just took on this tired Luton legs and eviscerated them. Close to the game. I think they were like 10, 11 minutes added on. Just exhausted madmen trying to land haymakers, hammer and tongs, both teams seething at the final whistle. They didn't get the win. But it was a game, David, more than anything, that proved why the Premier League is just such a global wonder. Even a game, which, let's be honest, on the tin, people probably tuned in like, bit meat and potatoes, turned out to be just part circus spectacle, part human drama, and it was impossible to ignore.
I got to say, Ross Barkley, when we're talking about there's no straight line in professional success, Ross Barkley, a player who made his Everton debut when he was so young, Rog, and just so much was expected of him. And his career got so dark. Remember that lone spell at Aston Villa that sort of fell apart, and he almost looked like he was going to be like Danny Drinkwater, like out of the game. watching Ross Barkley, it warms my heart, Roger. I never thought I'd say that there would be anything that Ross Barkley could do could warm my heart, but it warms my heart to see what he's done at Luton and how. I mean, he's their central player. He's at the thick of everything good that's
He's playing
happening at
deeper.
that club. It's
Yeah, he's
amazing.
playing
Yeah.
He's playing deeper than he did when he came through, and with still can be caught on the ball as he was for the Newcastle comeback, but is just, I mean, deliriously creative, deliriously audacious, and you're both watching a footballer enforce his will on all comers, and at the same time you're watching him. It's impossible to watch him without feeling a sense of redemption oozing out of him, and it's magnificent, man. It is magnificent humanly to witness.
Yeah, and Luton, suddenly, this is a team that just couldn't score goals, and now they're just like putting them in from all over the place. They couldn't hold on at the end. Newcastle, with all their class of those substitutions, found a way back in, but just a really entertaining, fantastic game of football and an incredibly valuable point, as you mentioned, for Luton Town at a place where it's very, very difficult to come out of with anything, usually. Okay, maybe a slightly less valuable point in the scheme of things. Burnley 2, Fulham 2, a game that saw the return of our Lord and Saviour, Tim Ream. And all looked so good for his Fulham side early, up 2-0 at Turf Moor, following goals by João Paulinho and Rodrigo Muniz, the second of a wonder Jedi Robinson assist, mind you. The Cottagers looked destined for 3 points, but a second half brace by Claret's David Datro Fofana, including an extra time equaliser, saw the team split the spoils. Cue screams of JJ Watt elation echoing throughout the Arizona canyons like a 6'5" chupacabra. Fulham sit 13th, while Burnley remain in the drop zone.
What a mood football can create, a mood shift football can create. First, Fulham soared into the lead. The two goals, I think it was inside 4 first half minutes. Burnley seemed down and out. You mentioned Muniz, 22-year-old Brazilian striker, 16 appearances for the Cottagers. Finally, his first goal. It was lovely. He ran to the corner, just started crying, which was just gorgeous and human. There were boos at halftime from the Burnley faithful who'd seen their team score just one goal in 12 and a half hours of football before this. A 10th home defeat of the season loomed. What is football but futility? But what did they need? They needed one of Davo's former lovers to come on. Chelsea loanee, substitute Fofana strolled onto the field, 63rd minute, scored twice on his home debut, used his head to cut the deficit in the 71st minute before bundled over a stoppage time equaliser, ran into the stands, mobbed by a delighted gaggle of the Burnley faithful. They've got a new hero and a modicum of hope. Burnley have just 13 points this season. They've had 4 of them, nearly a third, have been gifted by Fulham.
Yeah, amazing. David Fofana, come back to Chelsea. Please come back to Chelsea. We need you. Brighton 4, Crystal Palace 1,
God, the
Roberto
number
De
of players
Zerbi.
you're just like, nothing compares to you, that you're just singing
Oh
love
my
songs
word.
to, Davo. It's
I know.
immense.
It's too much. I was crying during last night's during last night's Grammy performance of that song. It's all I was thinking about, Rog.
Purple rain, purple rain. Go on.
You mentioned former lovers
Mhm.
earlier, talking about Jorginho, and I was thinking about Declan Rice, who we had as a kid. If you add in who we had in the academy as children, this weekend's Premier League, you could have put two Chelsea teams against each
Yeah.
other from
Olivier
the sort
Giroud
of.
scored.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing. Really amazing. Okay, Brighton 4, Crystal Palace 1. Goals by Dunk, Hinchelwood, and Buonanotte inside of 35 minutes had Brighton in cruise control from the opening whistle. João Pedro and Jean-Philippe Mateta traded second half goals, but the result was never in doubt. Old Roy's seat now hotter than the inside of a fresh steak and kidney pie after this derby beatdown rush. This odd derby, but it is a derby. The team that Palace do not want to lose to is Brighton.
Yeah, poor Roy Hodgson. Just an agony watching him, watch his team, watched by the fans in this game. A torment. It feels like there is no bottom for this man, being thumped by your arch rivals in this M23 derby against Brighton, who'd been goal starved, against Brighton, who'd won just one of their last 8 in the league coming in. They were so vulnerable themselves, or so we were told. Shorn of the injured Eze, though, Palace had to see Elise limp off after just 9 minutes after subbing on. And Roy sat there on the bench and stared off into space as the most passionate Palace fans sang, and I'm paraphrasing, "You're effing crap, you're effing crap, you're effing crap." I felt for Roy Davo, bit like I felt for old Yeller at the end of that novel. I mean, yes, he saved his family from the rabid wolf, but still, he's got to go.
Well, yeah, I suppose so. I mean, it just feels everything feels. You look at the teams that he's putting out on the field, and then there was the very unfortunate incident in this game of he brought on Elise, you know, for just 9 minutes of action, who then went off injured again and could be out even longer. That felt like a desperate move and a desperate mistake in context. That may be the fireable offence, Rog, more than where they find themselves as a team. Because who with that squad is really going to come in and do any better? Roy Hodgson has more experience than most in a relegation battle and fighting at the disruption. Yes, you sort of bank on a new manager bounce, but really, you're going to have to buy out contract. You're going to have to put somebody else on some kind of a longer term deal. I mean, it's very difficult.
But the agony of losing to Brighton is really a double one. Yes, you've got the Derby reality, the hated nemesis, because of the intensity of that weird rivalry, just a multi-layered on, essentially forged in the 70s. Do you understand? It's like Palace, South London mods going down to the South Coast to fight
On
Brighton
bank
Rockers.
holiday, yeah,
Yeah,
on bank holiday Mondays,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and also
Yeah.
like there's like multiple managers have kind of fueled it and made it like taken the flame and just turned it up to 11. But also the Brighton thing, it's like Palace mid-table in the Premier League wage table, but Brighton spend less than them. Brighton humiliate a lot of teams the way they spend smarter, strategy, vision, recruitment, sales, and it's that clinicality that embarrasses a lot of teams, makes Palace fans fume. Roy's predecessor, Patrick Vieira, was given the heave-ho after losing 1-0 at Brighton last March. Chelsea and Everton next up for Roy. And you do get the feeling, an unmistakable feeling of things coming to an end.
Absolutely. Okay, Rog, talking about things coming to an end, I'm talking about this podcast, not Everton Football Club. Everton 2, Tottenham 2, a big boy draw for your mob, Rog, as they come back from a goal down not once, but twice. And each of those Spurs goals will have stung more being from your old flame, Richie, who had to almost physically restrain himself from breaking into wild celebrations. But the pain on his face when he couldn't celebrate. But a 94th minute equaliser from baby giraffe Jared Branthwaite left things knotted at deuces. I was hoping Big Ange and Sean Dyche would decide this one via Russian slap fight, Rog, but it wasn't to be.
God, man. Oh, God, do you think Richarlison will now get a tattoo of himself not celebrating on one of his body parts?
Yeah, he's considered it.
God, just context. Everton finished a week in which the appeal for that first 10-point deduction was heard. We hold our breath as the results are due to come out mid-February. Will we get some points back? ... Question mark. Our legal representative, Lawrence Rabinovitz, was in attendance in Goodison Park, and that is modern football just at its worst. The fact that we have to know the name of our legal representatives, I hate that. But the honest truth is, he's probably more important to the future survival of the club than any of our so-called strikers. Poor DCL racking up his 200th Everton game. It's now 17 games, all comps without a goal. Astonishing, still looks good, smiles great, plays not so good. With the confidence-wise, just completely bled out the man. And this was a clash essentially between two teams, one with goals written all over it, Tottenham, one with nothing of the sort, a shattered squad, bereft by injuries, pieced together before kickoff. I think before the opening whistle, I was very much like, oh, for those about to die, we salute you. That was like, oh, got up at 7:30, and that was my mode. Tottenham in their quote torpedoes kit, just trying to chase Liverpool. I think they would have gone on level points of Arsenal if they'd won this. And I talked in my weekend preview on Friday about how Richarlison would probably get a hat trick in this one. And from the off, it came true. I mean, Tottenham could pass, they could run, they could move. Our boys clearly could do none of the three, especially on the right flank. God bless Ashley Young, continuing to play in the same way, really, as Mel Brooks continues to put his name to television shows. Dude is named Ashley Young, a bit like Little John is not little in Robin Bloody Hood. Timo Werner Oh my God, another former lover releasing a
Yeah.
Dogie to pull back to the one striker in the Everton box, completely unmarked. Four Everton defenders in the vicinity, letting him have all the space of the beach in Rio. Richie, no mercy, rifled home, elite confidence into the corner, first touch, span away, overwhelmed by joy, was just about to unleash and go mad. Then he was meant to, suddenly you could see the moment it crossed his mind, I am not meant to celebrate, shut it down. And he just instead bowed theatrically to Everton fans who clapped him back for the gesture. They just gone 1-0 down. We're having to clap this bastard. It's a bit like shooting someone from close blank range and acting as a pallbearer at your funeral. My worst fears realised, Davo. I mean, it happened so quickly. Have you ever had that? I didn't even feel a thing. It was just like,
Yeah, it happened. It was just like it's like you prepare yourself for the fight and you literally get felled by the first punch and it's like all over before it even
it's like a
started.
relief. It's like a relief. Your worst expectations have come really like, oh, thank God we got that over and done with. At Rye Guy Golfs tweeted me and said, you got up early for this. Yes, and I will do next week when we get pummeled by Manchester City. At CVPA Gov asked, have you ruined this for me? Instead of feeling pure joy for my Tottenham, my first thought when Richarlison scored was, oh, poor Rog. Please get out of my head. I'll just say, you are a beautiful human being, CVPA. Have no pity for us doom few. We did it to ourselves. This is the life we choose. We know no other way. And God bless Everton. We did try and play football badly, but with a modicum of gusto. Idrissa Gana Gay, back from AFCON with a vengeance, was everywhere. Spurs actually sat back after the goal. We started to dump ball after
Odd.
ball at their back
Yeah.
line. We went direct, but with the injuries we've got, set pieces were always going to be our everything. And on the half hour, a corner, Harrison boxing Vicario out like Bill Lambier with a better haircut. Everton clearly scouted that Vicario don't like it up and at him. I think it was Tark who headed back across goal. And my God, for a moment, DCL took his mind off men's shaving products and headed the ball. Oh, I think it actually caressed Harrison on the way in, so it was his goal. And my younger son Oz shouted, we're corner merchants, aren't we? Oh my God, yes, we are. Davo, I didn't think we would see this again in my lifetime. Everton. I mean, Vicario, God bless him, so shocked he tried to take a goal kick. Even he didn't think it was possible for Everton to score. He's like, these guys are only in the game to take the point deductions. It was magnificent, right? And it was a goal, right, David?
Yeah, it was a goal. That was not a foul on the keeper. I mean, nothing surprises you that referees give anymore, but it was light. Even saying it was Bill Lambier would be an exaggeration. It was a it was nothing on the keeper there. I can't believe that Vicario made such a mess of it. And Everton superb from corner kicks, superb from set pieces, and by the way, also Rog, superb at pressing in the final third. They force more. Their Gegen pressing, Rog, is superb from this
I
outfit.
think
I think
Sean
they're
Dyche.
number one in the
I think
league.
Sean Dyche calls it Gegen
Yeah.
pressing. Gegen.
Jägermeister.
Yeah.
He calls it something.
I want you to Jägermeister him, mate. Yeah,
Jägermeister.
what
Yeah.
Jurgen Klopp does. You know, that goal gave us hope. And where there's hope for Everton Football Club, there can only be one thing: shattered hope. We charge forward, aka we left space in behind. And once Tottenham regained their composure, they did that bloody thing again, that playing good football thing. Our brains just couldn't compute. Maddison slipped the ball deliciously with the outside of his mischievous little foot. Actually, a goal I called long before it fell to the executioner. And of course, that executioner was Richie again. Phenomenal finish. Pain now searing because it was one we once loved. I mean, it's always one we once loved, Davo. It felt like it, as if in that moment, it felt like Fellaini, Barkley, Richie, as if they were all scoring against us. Spurs fans, just imagine how you'd feel if Harry Kane scored for fun against you, and you'll understand my pain in that moment. At Tom Jenkins tweeted, if Richarlison's going to look so gutted every time he scores against Everton, just effing stop scoring. It's that easy, mate.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what a player would really do. Then he'd really get a clap from the Everton fans if he missed and then bowed.
Wouldn't that be
Missing and
amazing?
bowing.
Wouldn't that be
Missing and
amazing?
bowing would be a much better thing.
That'd be amazing if he just trapped the ball and then just put his hands out and said, I could have scored there, but I'm not going to. Taking not celebrating to the next level. Players should not score, Richie, against their former team. But into the second half, not great. Broken play. But a broken play, it should be said, by a lot of Richarlison terrible injuries and miracle recoveries, which was so endearing. By the way, when he left, I tweeted a tribute to him where I talked about his passion, his massive moments he's given us, his incredible ability to seem like he's been utterly humanly obliterated on the field 1 second, but always then be up and playing again the next.
Amazing.
And he retweeted it. He loved it so much. He retweeted that. He retweeted the compliment and the slightly uncompliment. But it was such endearing behaviour when he played for Everton Football Club. I will say it's infuriating AF when he plays against you. And God bless Everton. Kept hustling. So admirable. There are admirable qualities despite our mediocrity. The hustle, the grind, the collective grind. 94th minute, another set play. Garner free kick curled into the Spurs Kenny Loggins danger zone. Romero headed towards his own goal, and the audacious Jared Brantwaite, the baby giraffe, flung himself into a quaking Vicario. You can actually see when you slow the goal down, you can see the brown trail of Vicario's fear unfold in slow-mo. David, I've got to say, I love Brantwaite humanly so much. I'm already pre-mourning him leaving us.
Yeah, and who he's going to play for, and then the non-celebration. Hopefully, maybe he'll be the non-scorer. Maybe he'll be the non-scorer you've been looking for, Rog.
When you leave me, Jared Brantwaite, the whole game when you play against us and score on us and probably celebrate, I'm just going to, in my own head, I'm going to be like, I'm never going to dance again. Guilty feet have got no rhythm. By the way, an agony for Spurs. Draw that felt, I think, like a somber defeat. Ashley Young post-game said Sean Dyche had identified where you get in their faces, you can win the ball back. We found out we could do that in high positions, and when you do that, you will get chances. GFOP at John Rook's Music summed up the game on our Instagram. In my book, we still get Richarlison's goals and the 3 points. It looked like only Blues scoring out there to me. Is that how it works, David?
Yeah, unfortunately not. Unfortunately not. But right now, if you're going to get points deducted, you may as well get points and goals added somewhere as well. The ledgers have to balance, Rod. You've got to balance the
rules
books.
up as they go along on here. For Everton, we are fighting on so many fronts right now. The players on the field, the fans behind them in the crowd, the legal teams in the courtroom, the politicians in Parliament. We are braced for a turbulent couple of months. There will not be a normal day in our existence. Next weekend, we play City, then West Ham, United, Liverpool in our 4 of our next 6. It is a murderous gauntlet to come.
Absolutely, Roger. Okay, before we go, a quick reminder about everything we've got happening at Men in Blazers this week, powered by Michelob Ultra. Tomorrow, Roger, it's your interview with Serginho Dest, your surreal interview with Serginho Dest. And remember, that's on our early kickoff podcast feed. Just search Men in Blazers early kickoff to find it. And Thursday this week, a wonderful interview as Sam Muir sits down with England and Barcelona's Lucy Bronze for the latest episode of the Women's Game. That drops on this feed Thursday. And remember, follow the Women's Game on all social platforms and YouTube at Women's Game MIB. That's at Women's Game MIB. Okay, can we get a toast to finish us off, Rogerio?
I want to close with a toast about an incredible America moment of the weekend, aka the Booth brothers of Eden, Utah. 2 gents who faced each other in the Netherlands top flight, Eredivisie. 22-year-old Taylor Booth scored a hat-trick for Utrecht. His 19-year-old brother Zach also scored for Volendam. For more on their story, and it is incredible. Both brothers join my friend Hercules Gomez on last Thursday's episode of Vamos. Give it a listen so you can revel in these audacious young Americans. Their story. They're essentially like mountain region standard time version of the Aronsons. To their health, to their continued success. It's magical, honestly, to watch 2 kids who grew up battling each other in their family basement in Utah, now dominating the Dutch top flight together. Courage, or as they say in the Netherlands, moed.
Wonderful, Roger. You can follow us on Twitter at Men in Blazers, at Embassy Davies, at Roger Bennett, on Instagram at Men in Blazers, at Embassy Davies, on Facebook with the Men in Blazers, on Twitch, twitch.tv/Men in Blazers. Also our TikTok, look for it at Men in Blazers, and you can always email us at meninblazers@gmail.com. We love and cherish getting your emails.
And our YouTube too, which I think is YouTube. It's Men in Blazers, funnily enough. We're very original.
Okay, Venderpunk, Rog.
War Pig.
Was that a Rabona?
I like snacks.
Balls win, Balls win.
Take that, Gloria.
Balls lose.
To Tweed.
Abrigado, rock on, mate.
Kung Fu Fighting America. Love you, Davo.
Love you, Rog.
Oh, Jared Brantwaite, never leave us. Listen to the full version of this podcast and all our podcasts wherever you get your pods. But first, subscribe here for more Men in Blazers videos and courage.